The night air smelled of dirt and fear. The sound came first, a dull thud beneath the old construction site on the edge of the city. She froze. Then again, faint but real. Someone was under there. "Wait, someone is still alive down there," she shouted, her voice cutting through the wind. No one answered. The workers had gone home hours ago, leaving behind half-dug trenches and a pile of concrete slabs. She dropped her grocery bag, the apples spilling and rolling into the dark. Her name was Naomi, 34 years old, a nurse who worked night shifts at St. Vincent Hospital. Her hair was tied back, her breath showing in white clouds as she crouched by the edge of the pit. The noise came again, a muffled knock. Naomi's heart slammed against her ribs. She switched on her phone's flashlight and leaned closer. The light caught something that did not belong there, a piece of fabric, a cufflink, moving slightly under the loose dirt. "Hold on," she called, her voice trembling but firm. She looked around for help, but the street was empty. A single street lamp flickered above her, its glow cutting weakly through the fog. She climbed down, her shoes slipping on the wet earth, her knees scraping against stone. The smell of gasoline and damp soil filled her lungs. "Please," a voice rasped from below. It was faint, nearly swallowed by the wind, but it was there. Naomi began to dig with her bare hands, the cold biting into her skin. Her nails cracked, her arms shook, but she did not stop. She could hear him breathing, shallow and desperate. "Talk to me," she said. "Keep talking." "They buried me," the man gasped. "They wanted me dead." The words sent a chill through her spine. "Not tonight," she whispered. The dirt gave way, revealing a face, pale and streaked with blood. His eyes fluttered open, dazed, uncomprehending. He was older, maybe mid-40s, dressed in what used to be an expensive suit now torn and muddy. Naomi grabbed a broken plank nearby and used it to dig faster, freeing his chest and arms. "Stay with me," she said, her voice calm even as fear roared in her head. He coughed, choking on dust. "Who are you?" "A stranger," she said, "but one who hears." A distant siren wailed, far away but coming closer. Naomi pressed her hand against his shoulder, feeling for a pulse. It was there, weak but steady. "You are safe now," she said softly. "Not yet," he whispered. "They will come back." She met his eyes, and in that fleeting second, something unspoken passed between them, a vow, a promise made in dirt and breath. The siren grew louder. Headlights swept across the field, catching her silhouette bent over him, her hands covered in soil. As the first ambulance light flared red and blue, she closed her eyes for a moment and whispered, "You are not dying tonight." The wind carried her words across the empty lot, over the sound of shovels and running feet, over the heartbeat of a city that had almost buried one of its own. In that moment, a woman who had nothing had saved a man who had everything, and neither of them yet knew that this was only the beginning. The flashing red and blue lights painted the construction site like a fever dream. Naomi stepped back as the paramedics rushed in, their boots splashing through the mud. Her hands trembled, caked with dirt and blood that was not her own. The man she had pulled from the ground lay on the stretcher, an oxygen mask pressed to his face. His chest rose and fell shallowly, but he was alive. One of the paramedics asked for her name, but Naomi only stared at the man's hand dangling off the edge of the stretcher, the cufflink glinting faintly under the ambulance light. It bore an engraved symbol, a stylized letter H, within a circle. She had seen that mark before, on billboards downtown, on glass towers that reached for the clouds. "Hart Industries," she whispered. "Marcus Hart." The name came with a rush of disbelief. Everyone in the city knew him. Billionaire investor, philanthropist, a man untouchable, and she had just pulled him out of a hole in the ground. At the hospital, the fluorescent lights hummed cold and steady. Naomi sat in the waiting area of the emergency wing, her clothes still damp with soil. A police officer took her statement, scribbling notes as she spoke. She told them everything except one thing, the words he had gasped between breaths. "They buried me." She could not say it out loud yet. It sounded too impossible, too cruel. When the officer thanked her and walked away, she exhaled slowly, the weight of adrenaline fading into exhaustion. Across the hall, through a glass partition, she saw him, Marcus Hart. His face cleaned, oxygen mask removed, monitors beeping softly beside him. Doctors moved around him like careful shadows. Naomi watched until one of the nurses noticed her and motioned for her to come closer. "Are you family?" the nurse asked. Naomi shook her head. "No, I found him." The nurse hesitated, then gave a small nod. "He is stable now. You saved his life." Naomi looked down at her scraped hands, unsure how to feel. She was not supposed to be here. She should have been home, showered, asleep before her next night shift. Instead, she stood in the quiet corridor of a hospital where billionaires were not supposed to arrive covered in dirt. Hours passed. The city outside began to wake, gray lights spilling through the tall windows. A man in a suit arrived, flanked by security. His voice was clipped, efficient. "Mr. Hart's personal attorney," someone whispered. He approached the nurse's station, demanded details, signed papers. Naomi listened quietly, her instincts trained by years in trauma care to read a room's pulse. Something about his calm felt too controlled. When he finally noticed her, his smile was polite but cold. "You are the one who found him," he said. She nodded. "Thank you for your quick action. Mr. Hart owes you his life." His tone was polite, but his eyes were distant, calculating. "Can I see him?" Naomi asked. The lawyer's smile tightened. "He is resting. The family prefers privacy." She wanted to protest, but exhaustion won. "All right," she murmured. "Tell him I am glad he made it." She turned to leave, but just as she reached the elevator, a nurse came running down the hall. "Miss Naomi," she called. "He is awake. He asked for you." Naomi froze. When she entered the private room, the first thing she noticed was the silence. Machines hummed softly, and the smell of antiseptic clung to the air. Marcus Hart turned his head slowly, his skin pale but his eyes sharp. "You," he said, his voice hoarse but steady. "You were there." Naomi nodded. "You remember?" "I remember your voice," he said. "You said, I was not dying tonight." His lips twitched, almost a smile. "You were right." Naomi hesitated near the door. "You should rest. You inhaled a lot of dust." "Sit," he said. It was not a command, not quite a request either, but she obeyed. He studied her as if trying to piece together how a stranger had found him in a place where no one should have been. "You are not part of my team," he said quietly. "So how did you know I was there?" Naomi frowned. "I heard you. The knocking. I live a few blocks away." He nodded slowly. "Then fate has strange timing." His eyes darkened, and for a moment, fear flickered there. "What did I say when you found me?" Naomi hesitated, remembering the words buried under the roar of dirt and wind. "You said, they buried you." The room seemed to contract. He looked away, staring at the wall where the morning light touched the sterile white paint. "Then I did say it," he murmured. "Mr. Hart," she said carefully, "if someone hurt you, you need to tell the police." "No police," he interrupted sharply, his tone cutting through the quiet. "Not yet." Naomi's stomach tightened. "You think someone close to you did this?" He did not answer, but the silence was loud enough. After a long pause, he said, "You saved my life, Naomi, and now I need you to help me keep it." The sentence hung in the air, heavy and unreal. Naomi should have walked away right then. She should have told him no, that she was just a nurse who got lucky finding him. But when he reached out, his hand unsteady, his eyes filled not with power but with raw human fear, she understood something that went deeper than logic. Some calls for help are not spoken, they are felt. She took his hand and said quietly, "All right. But you need to tell me the truth." Outside the window, the first sunlight broke through the clouds, washing the city in pale gold. Inside, between two strangers bound by a night of dirt and breath, the real story was just beginning. The next morning arrived with the quiet hum of hospital corridors and the faint scent of coffee drifting from the nurse's station. Naomi sat beside Marcus Hart's bed, her posture straight but her mind restless. The billionaire was awake, eyes fixed on the city skyline visible through the window. Sunlight touched the edge of his face, revealing the faint bruises along his jawline. "You should eat something," Naomi said softly. He turned toward her, his expression unreadable. "I am not hungry." "You will not heal on an empty stomach," she replied, her voice steady. "And you will not solve anything if you pass out again." The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. You sound like someone used to being ignored by powerful men. I am a nurse, Naomi said. We get ignored every day. He looked at her for a long moment, as if measuring her strength. Naomi, he said slowly, you are the only person who knows what really happened last night. Everyone else believes it was an accident. A cave-in. That is the official story. She nodded. I heard the news on the radio this morning. They said a billionaire was lucky to survive a collapse at his private construction site. Lucky, he repeated quietly. Yes, that is one word for it. Naomi studied him. If it was not an accident, then someone planned it. And if someone planned it, you cannot handle this alone. He looked away. There are things you do not understand about my company, about what it means to have enemies who smile while shaking your hand. Then help me understand, she said simply. He glanced at her again, and for the first time, she saw something behind his composure, fear disguised as calculation. Last week, he began, I was preparing to sell part of the company. It was supposed to fund a clean energy division, something I believed in. But not everyone wanted that deal to go through. Too many people profit from things staying dirty. And you think they tried to silence you? Naomi said. I know they did, Marcus answered, his voice tight. They called it a site inspection. I went alone to avoid press attention. I remember walking the property line then. Nothing. I woke up under the dirt, hearing my own heartbeat fade. Naomi's throat tightened. You should go to the police. Not yet, he said. If I make the wrong move, they will bury me again, only this time. It will be in headlines, not dirt. The tension in his words filled the room like smoke. Naomi took a slow breath. Then what do you need from me? Marcus hesitated. Someone I can trust. Someone who does not work for me or against me. Someone with nothing to gain. That sounds like a short list, Naomi said. It is a list of one, he replied. You. She blinked, surprised. I am a nurse, not an investigator. You are the reason I am alive, Marcus said. You listen. You see things other people overlook. I need that right now. His voice cracked slightly at the edges, the exhaustion of surviving something he could not yet name. Naomi felt a pull inside her chest, a mixture of fear and responsibility. All right, she said quietly, but only if you promise not to keep secrets from me. Agreed, he said. Then tell me where we start. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. There is one person I need to find, a man named Victor Lang. He was overseeing the excavation. He disappeared last night, right after the collapse. You think he is involved? Naomi asked. Or scared, Marcus replied. Either way, he knows something. Naomi stood, the decision already made. I can ask around. My brother works in city maintenance. He might know someone near the site. Marcus's eyes softened. You would do that for me? I am doing it for the truth, she said. You almost died, Marcus. Someone has to care about that. For the first time, he looked genuinely moved. You remind me of someone I used to know, he said. She believed people could still change. Naomi adjusted the blanket at the edge of his bed, her hands steady. Do not confuse faith with blindness, she said. Sometimes we see too much, and still hope anyway. Outside the room, voices rose and fell, the rhythm of a hospital that never slept. When Naomi stepped into the hallway, she caught sight of the lawyer again, the same man in the tailored suit from the night before. He was talking to a nurse, his tone low but insistent. His gaze flicked toward Marcus's door and then toward Naomi. She felt his eyes linger a beat too long before he offered a thin smile. Good morning, he said smoothly. Checking on our patient? I am his nurse, Naomi said evenly. And you are? Mr. Hart's attorney, he said, handing her a business card she did not take. Everything is under control. That is what people say when nothing is, Naomi replied and walked away. She could feel his stare following her down the corridor. Later that afternoon, as she left the hospital, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. The voice was low, male, nervous. You are the woman who saved Marcus Hart, it said. Yes. Who is this? You need to be careful, the voice said. They are watching him. And now, they are watching you. The line went dead. Naomi stood on the steps of the hospital, the wind cold against her face. Somewhere above, a helicopter cut through the gray sky, heading toward the tall glass towers of Hart Industries. She looked down at her hands, still faintly stained from the dirt of the night before, and realized that saving a life was only the beginning. Now, she would have to protect it. That night, rain drummed steadily against the windows of Marcus Hart's private hospital suite, a rhythm that matched the quiet tension in the room. Naomi stood near the bedside, holding a tray of food that had gone untouched for over an hour. Marcus was awake, his gaze fixed on the muted television showing a news report about the miraculous rescue of a city billionaire. The anchor's smile was polished, the tone rehearsed. "They make it sound like a movie," Naomi said, breaking the silence. Marcus turned his head slightly. "A movie is easier to believe than the truth." She set the tray down. "You have not eaten since morning." He glanced at the food but did not reach for it. "I have been thinking about what you told me. The phone call. The man who said they are watching us." Naomi folded her arms. Whoever he was, he sounded terrified. Marcus nodded slowly. "Fear like that only comes from people who know too much." The rain grew heavier, streaking the glass like veins of silver. The room was dim except for the pale light from the city below. Marcus leaned back against the pillows, fatigue drawing shadows under his eyes. "Do you believe in coincidence, Naomi?" he asked quietly. "No," she said. "Not after last night." "Neither do I," he said. "Someone knew I would be at that site. Someone who wanted to make sure I did not leave it alive." Naomi moved closer. "You said the man who oversaw the project disappeared. Victor Lang." "Yes," Marcus replied. "He was loyal, or at least I thought he was, until now." Naomi took a seat near the bed. "Then maybe he is not the one who betrayed you. Maybe he is the one who tried to stop it and vanished because of it." Marcus gave her a long look. "You think he was trying to warn me?" "I think he was trying to survive," Naomi said. "And if he reached out to someone, we might be able to find him before they do." Marcus looked at her, the faintest spark of hope flickering behind his weariness. "You speak like someone who has been through this before." She hesitated, the memory surfacing like an old bruise. "My brother worked in city construction. He reported a safety cover-up once. 2 weeks later, he was laid off. A month after that, he was gone. Officially an accident. I never believed it." The air thickened between them. Marcus exhaled slowly. "Then you know what it feels like when the truth is dangerous." Naomi met his gaze. "That is why I am still here." Before he could answer, the door opened quietly. The lawyer entered, his expression composed but his eyes assessing every detail. "Mr. Hart," he said smoothly, "you should not be exhausting yourself with unnecessary discussions." Marcus's tone hardened. "Unnecessary? You have a company to stabilize and shareholders demanding answers. Let us handle the investigation." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You were not the one buried alive, Robert." The lawyer's polished demeanor flickered for a moment. "Of course, sir. My apologies." Naomi watched the exchange silently, noting the tension that pulsed between the two men. Robert turned to her. "And you must be Miss Naomi. You have been quite the hero." His smile did not reach his eyes. "I am not interested in being a hero," she said evenly. "Just in the truth." "Truth," he repeated, almost amused. "A complicated word in our world." Marcus interrupted, his voice firm. "Leave us." The lawyer hesitated, then gave a shallow nod. "As you wish." When the door clicked shut, Marcus looked at Naomi. "He knows more than he admits. He is too careful." "Then why keep him close?" she asked. "Because I need to know what he is hiding," Marcus replied. "The only way to catch a shadow is to let it think it is unseen." Naomi considered his words. "If he is part of this, he will not act while you are weak. He will wait until you are alone." Marcus smiled faintly. "Then I will not be alone." His meaning was clear. She was part of this now. Later, when the rain eased, Naomi helped him sit up and walked him to the window. The city shimmered with reflected light, towers glowing like glass sentinels. Marcus stared out, his reflection pale against the glass. "All my life I thought control meant safety," he said. "But last night I learned that control is an illusion. The only thing that saved me was a stranger's voice." Naomi's voice softened. "Then maybe it is time to start listening to strangers." He looked at her and nodded. Tomorrow we will find Victor Lang, quietly, before they erase him completely. Naomi glanced at the clock. You should rest first. I will, he said, but promise me something. What? If I do not make it through this, do not let them bury the truth with me. She met his gaze without flinching. You are not going to die, Marcus. Not on my watch. He gave a tired smile. You have a habit of saying that. And so far, she said, it keeps working. When she left his room that night, the hallway lights dimmed to evening mode, casting long shadows across the polished floor. Naomi walked past the nurse's desk, past the security camera that blinked once, twice, and then stopped recording. Somewhere in the control room, a figure in a black jacket watched her on another monitor, the red light blinking softly beside the words, Live Feed. As Naomi stepped into the elevator, the doors slid shut behind her, and in that brief reflection, she caught a glimpse of her own face, determined, steady, unaware that she was no longer just a rescuer, but the key to unraveling a conspiracy that had already marked her name. The following morning, gray clouds hung low over the city as Naomi guided Marcus Hart into the passenger seat of her old sedan. The hospital had discharged him under strict instructions to rest, but his mind was far from healing. He wore a dark coat, the collar turned up to hide his face. To anyone passing by, he was just another tired man recovering from an accident. You should not be out of bed, Naomi said as she started the car. The doctor said. The doctor does not know someone tried to bury me alive, Marcus interrupted quietly. We cannot wait. Every hour gives them more time to cover their tracks. Naomi tightened her grip on the steering wheel. Then where do we go first? The South Dock, he said. That is where Victor Lang's crew reported last before he disappeared. The wipers squeaked across the windshield as rain began to fall again, steady and cold. The drive was silent except for the hum of the engine. Naomi kept glancing at him. His face was pale, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion, but there was a steadiness to him, a will that refused to break. When they reached the docks, the wind off the river was sharp and biting. Cargo cranes loomed like dark skeletons against the sky. Naomi parked near a row of storage containers streaked with rust. Are you sure about this place? She asked. Marcus nodded. Victor oversaw the excavation equipment. The shipments came through this port. They stepped out, boots crunching over gravel. A man in an orange raincoat was locking up a small supply shed nearby. Marcus approached him slowly. Excuse me, he said. We are looking for Victor Lang. The man frowned, sizing them up. Who is asking? A friend, Naomi said, stepping forward. Her calm tone seemed to disarm him. He scratched his beard and looked around nervously. He was here 2 nights ago. Came to pick up some papers. Said he was heading north, but he looked scared. Kept saying something about a trap. Marcus exchanged a look with Naomi. Did he say where he was going? No, the man said. But he left this. He reached into the shed and handed Marcus a small metal flash drive sealed in plastic. Told me to give it to someone named Hart if anything happened. Marcus took it, his fingers tightening around the object. Thank you, he said. The man nodded quickly and walked away without another word. Back in the car, Naomi turned the heat on full blast while Marcus examined the drive. You think it is safe to plug that in? She asked. Nothing about this is safe, he replied, pulling a slim laptop from his bag. The screen flickered to life, reflecting in his eyes as he inserted the drive. For a few seconds, there was only silence. Then a folder appeared with one video file labeled Proof. Marcus clicked play. The footage was grainy, shot at night. The camera panned across the same construction site where Naomi had found him. Voices murmured in the background, men arguing. One voice was clear, commanding, "Make sure he does not wake up. We need it to look like an accident." Naomi felt her stomach turn. Marcus leaned closer, his jaw tightening as the camera shifted, revealing the face of the man giving orders. It was Robert, his lawyer. The recording ended abruptly. Marcus closed the laptop, his expression carved in stone. He planned everything, he said quietly. He wanted control of the company. My disappearance would have given it to him. Naomi exhaled slowly. Then we have proof. We have motive, Marcus corrected. Proof means nothing unless it is seen by the right people. He looked out the rain, streaked window. Robert has connections everywhere. If we go to the authorities now, this will vanish before anyone watches it. Naomi thought for a moment. Then we show it to someone who cannot be bought, someone who owes you nothing. Marcus gave a small, tired laugh. That list is even shorter than yours. Then we find someone new, she said. The firmness in her voice made him look at her again. You are not afraid of this, are you? Of course I am, Naomi said honestly. But I am more afraid of doing nothing. They drove to a quiet diner on the edge of town. The place smelled of coffee and fried eggs. The kind of normalcy that felt almost foreign after everything. Marcus sat across from her in a corner booth, the laptop closed between them. When I was younger, he said, I believed money could fix everything, but it cannot buy courage. It cannot buy the sound of someone saying, you are not dying tonight. Naomi looked down, her voice soft. Sometimes the right words are worth more than everything else. Outside, the rain slowed to a drizzle. The waitress refilled their cups without recognizing him. For a moment, they could have been anyone, two strangers sharing silence over coffee. But the illusion ended when a black SUV rolled past the diner window, slowing just slightly before continuing down the street. Naomi saw it first. We have company, she murmured. Marcus's eyes followed her gaze. Then they already know we found something. She nodded. We need to move. He reached for the flash drive, slipping it into his pocket. We cannot run forever, she said. No, Marcus agreed, but we can make sure the truth keeps running longer than they do. As they stepped out into the misty air, the city lights blurred against the wet pavement. Somewhere behind them, the SUV idled for a moment, then turned its headlights off. Naomi did not look back. She only tightened her coat, her breath steady. The world thought she was a nurse who had saved a billionaire. What they did not know was that now, she was the only thing standing between him and the darkness that had already tried once to swallow him whole. The rain had stopped by the time Naomi and Marcus returned to the city. But the streets still glistened with puddles that caught the glow of the streetlights. The air was heavy, damp, and tense with the kind of silence that carried warnings. Naomi parked the car 2 blocks away from her apartment and turned off the engine. The city noise faded to a low hum outside. Marcus sat still, his eyes fixed on the flash drive in his hand. We cannot stay here, she said quietly. They will trace your hospital records, your car, everything. I know, he said, but I need to see one thing before we disappear. What is that? She asked. Home, he said. The word came out softly, almost like a confession. Against her better judgment, Naomi drove him to the edge of the upper district, where glass towers rose like monuments to ambition. They passed a security gate that opened automatically when Marcus scanned his keycard. The driveway curved upward, ending in front of a sprawling mansion of stone and glass. The place looked like a fortress, its perfection almost sterile. Naomi followed him inside through a private entrance. The scent of cedar and marble polish filled the air. You live alone here? She asked. Mostly, he said. My staff leave after dark. I thought it was safer that way. The irony hung in the air between them. Marcus walked to a panel on the wall and pressed his fingerprint to it. The lights came on in a soft cascade. The house was silent, immaculate. Yet Naomi could sense the weight of secrets in its corners. She followed him into his study, a vast room lined with books and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He opened a hidden drawer and pulled out a folder of documents. These are contracts Robert drafted, he said. He was preparing a transfer of assets under my name. If I had died, he would have inherited control through a loophole buried in the legal fine print. Naomi looked at the papers, her heart sinking. Then it was never just about money. It was about power. Power is always about money, Marcus said bitterly. And fear. A sudden sound broke the quiet. The soft click of a door shutting somewhere deeper in the house. Naomi froze. Marcus turned sharply toward the hallway. Did you lock the entrance? She asked. Yes, he said. His voice was low, controlled. Another sound followed, the faint scrape of a shoe on marble. Naomi's instincts flared. We are not alone, she whispered. Marcus reached for a small safe beneath the desk, pulling out a metallic briefcase. There is a back exit through the garden, he said. Take this and go. No, she said firmly. We go together. The footsteps grew closer. Marcus grabbed the flash drive and slipped it into his coat pocket. The office door creaked open, and a man stepped into the light. It was Robert. His suit was immaculate, his expression composed as if he were walking into a business meeting. "I wish you had stayed dead, Marcus," he said calmly. "It would have been cleaner for everyone." Naomi's pulse quickened. "You tried to kill him," she said. Robert smiled faintly. "Kill? Such an ugly word. Let us say I was correcting a mistake." Marcus never understood what his company could become. He was holding it back. Marcus's jaw tightened. "You buried me like garbage. You buried yourself," Robert said, "with your sentiment, your pity projects, your charity. You forgot the world does not run on kindness." "Then maybe it should," Naomi said sharply. Robert turned his gaze to her. "And who are you in all this, Miss Naomi? The savior? The conscience? Someone who believes you will not get away with it," she said. He chuckled softly. "You think that little video means anything? Evidence disappears. People disappear. And soon, you will too." He stepped closer, his tone casual but his eyes cold. Marcus moved slightly, positioning himself between them. "Leave her out of this," he said. Robert tilted his head. "I cannot. She knows now." Naomi's hand brushed against the lamp on the table. She glanced at Marcus, then back at Robert. "You said people disappear," she said. "Let us see if you are right." Before he could react, she swung the lamp forward, knocking the power cord loose. The lights flickered and went dark. In the confusion, Marcus grabbed Naomi's arm and pulled her toward the back door. They ran through a narrow hallway that led to the garden. The sound of rainwater dripping from the eaves mixed with the pounding of their footsteps. Behind them, Robert shouted something, but they did not look back. They burst through the glass doors into the cold night air, breathless. The garden stretched wide, bordered by hedges and a gate leading to a service road. Naomi's heart pounded as she glanced at Marcus. "We cannot go back," she said. "We will not," he replied. They climbed into the shadows beyond the gate, just as headlights flared behind them. The roar of an engine cut through the stillness. "He will not stop," Naomi said. "Then we do not stop either," Marcus replied. They disappeared into the dark streets, the city swallowing them whole. Behind them, the mansion loomed like a silent witness. In its grand, empty study, the laptop still glowed faintly. The last frame of the video paused on Robert's face, a frozen image of arrogance lit by the reflection of flames from the shattered lamp. Somewhere out in the city, two fugitives carried a truth worth killing for, and the night seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see who would survive until morning. The sun rose slowly over the city, painting the skyline in pale gold as Naomi and Marcus found temporary refuge in an abandoned warehouse near the river. The place smelled of dust and metal, with shafts of light cutting through broken windows. Naomi spread an old blanket over a stack of crates while Marcus sat on the floor, his hands trembling slightly as he checked the flash drive again. "He will not stop looking for us," Naomi said, her voice low. Marcus nodded. "He cannot. That video is the one thing that can destroy him." Naomi looked at him, her eyes filled with concern. "You need rest." "Rest does not bring justice," he said quietly. She sat beside him, watching the light shift across the floor. "Justice does not come from running yourself into the ground either." Marcus turned the flash drive in his fingers, the metal glinting faintly. "There is one person who can help us," he said. "Her name is Lillian Vega. She is an investigative journalist. I helped fund one of her exposés years ago, before the board shut it down. If anyone can make this story impossible to bury, it is her." "Then we find her," Naomi said. "I already did," Marcus replied, pulling out his phone. He had turned off all tracking services, using only encrypted communication. "She agreed to meet tonight, at her office downtown. But it has to be in secret." Naomi frowned. "If Robert is watching, he will expect you to contact someone like her." "He will not expect me to trust anyone again," Marcus said. The day passed slowly. Naomi found canned food in a storage room and handed him a makeshift meal. As he ate, she watched him carefully. There was something in his silence that unsettled her, a weight heavier than fear. When night came, They left the warehouse and drove toward downtown in a borrowed truck that smelled of oil and tobacco. The streets glowed with neon, reflections rippling across puddles left by the night rain. They parked near an old newspaper building, its sign barely lit. Inside, the office was dim, cluttered with files and the hum of old computers. Lillian Vega stood by the window, her gray hair pulled back, her sharp eyes assessing them the moment they entered. "Marcus Hart," she said, "you look worse than the headlines make you." Marcus managed a faint smile. "It has been a rough week." "And who is this?" Lillian asked, looking at Naomi. "The woman who saved my life," Marcus said simply. Naomi extended her hand. "Naomi Brooks." Lillian nodded, her grip firm. "All right, tell me everything." Marcus handed her the flash drive. As she plugged it into her laptop, Naomi scanned the room, old framed photographs on the walls, newspaper clippings about corruption and justice, the ghosts of stories that had once shaken the city. The video played again, Robert's face filling the screen, his voice cold and calculated. When it ended, Lillian exhaled slowly. "This is damning," she said. "But it will not be enough." Marcus frowned. "What do you mean?" "It proves intent, but not outcome. A clever lawyer could claim it was taken out of context or fabricated." Naomi crossed her arms. "So we need more." "Yes," Lillian said. "We need corroboration, witnesses, documents, and I think I know where to start." She turned to Marcus. "The board records. If Robert planned to take control, there will be financial trails hidden in the company's internal servers. Those servers are under heavy security," Marcus said. "I designed the system myself." "Then you will be the one to break it," Lillian said with a wry smile. "I will make sure the world is watching when you do." Marcus nodded slowly. "If I do this, there is no going back." "That is the point," Lillian said. "Truth does not wait for permission." Naomi studied both of them. "We should move before sunrise. They will track your communications if you stay here." Lillian handed Naomi a small USB drive. "This will bypass corporate firewalls. I built it years ago when I was still welcome in their circles." Naomi pocketed it. "Then we have a plan." As they prepared to leave, Marcus paused by the door. "Lillian," he said, "if anything happens to us, make sure that video gets out." "I have already sent a copy to a cloud server," she said. "If you vanish, it goes public." "You always were thorough," Marcus said. Lillian smiled faintly. "You used to like that about me." The air between them carried a history Naomi did not understand, but she said nothing. They stepped out into the alley behind the building. The city was quiet, the night air heavy with mist. Marcus pulled his coat tighter, scanning the shadows. "Something feels wrong," Naomi whispered. "Keep walking," he said. They reached the truck, but before Naomi could open the door, a beam of light flared from across the street. Headlights. The low rumble of an engine followed. "Move!" Marcus shouted. They ran, their footsteps echoing off the brick walls as the black SUV turned the corner, accelerating. The roar grew louder. Naomi grabbed Marcus's arm, pulling him toward a side stairwell. They ducked inside just as the vehicle screeched to a stop outside. From the small window, Naomi saw two men step out, both wearing dark coats, their movements precise and practiced. "Robert's men," Marcus whispered. Naomi's heart pounded. "They know about Lillian." She looked back toward the office. "She is still inside." Marcus clenched his fists. "If we go back, they will find us all. If we do not, she is dead," Naomi said. He met her gaze, torn. The sound of footsteps approached. Naomi made her choice. "Stay here," she said, and ran toward the alley before he could stop her. The cold air burned her lungs as she sprinted back to the building, the world narrowing to the sound of her heartbeat and the echo of approaching danger. Somewhere behind her, Marcus called her name, but she did not turn back. The truth had already chosen her path, and tonight it demanded courage. Naomi ran across the slick pavement toward the newspaper building, her shoes splashing through puddles that reflected the dim glow of streetlights. Her breath came fast, and every sound seemed louder in the fog. When she reached the door, she found it cracked open. The faint hum of computers and the flicker of monitors bled through the darkness inside. "Lillian," she whispered as she stepped in. The air smelled of burnt paper and ozone. She moved carefully, her eyes scanning the hallway. A shadow shifted near the corner, and for a moment she froze, her heartbeat loud in her ears. Then she saw Lillian crouched beside her desk, frantically shoving files into a satchel. "They are inside," Lillian said without looking up. "Two of them. They are armed." Naomi helped her stand. "We have to go now." Lillian handed her a hard drive wrapped in brown paper. "This has everything from the server, the backups, the company records, the coded transfers. If Marcus can decrypt this, it will prove everything." Footsteps echoed from the far end of the hall. Naomi grabbed Lillian's hand, pulling her toward the back exit. "Do you have another way out?" "Through the print room," Lillian whispered. They moved quickly, ducking behind cabinets and shelves. The voices grew closer, sharp and deliberate. Naomi could hear one of the men speaking into a radio. "Target located. Secure the journalist first." The words sent a chill through her spine. She and Lillian reached the print room, its wide presses looming in the dark like sleeping giants. A single emergency light cast a dim orange glow across the floor. Lillian pointed to a side door that led to the loading dock. "Go," she said. "I will hold them off." Naomi shook her head. "No, you are coming with me." "Naomi, listen," Lillian said, gripping her arm. "If they get this drive, everything we have done will vanish. The story, the evidence, Marcus's life, it all dies here. Promise me you will get it to him." The footsteps were closing in. Naomi swallowed hard. "I promise," she said. Lillian gave a small, brave smile. "Then run." Naomi hesitated for a second too long, then turned and sprinted through the door, clutching the drive. Behind her, the sound of shouting erupted, followed by a crash. She did not look back. Outside, the loading dock opened to the alley. The night air hit her face like ice. Marcus was waiting at the end of the block, the truck's engine idling, his expression a mix of fear and relief when he saw her. "Where is Lillian?" he asked. Naomi climbed in, breathless. She stayed behind. "What?" he said, his voice breaking. "She told me to run. She gave me this." Naomi held up the hard drive. Marcus gripped the steering wheel tightly. "We have to go back." "No," Naomi said firmly. "If we go back, we die, and this dies with us." She knew that. The engine roared as he pressed the accelerator. They sped through the empty streets, the city lights blurring into streaks of gold and gray. Neither of them spoke for several minutes. Finally, Marcus said quietly, "She was the only person who ever believed in what I was trying to build." "Then honor that," Naomi said. "Make it mean something." They reached the outskirts of the city, pulling into an industrial park where the buildings were half abandoned. Marcus parked behind an old factory and killed the headlights. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with unspoken grief. Naomi handed him the drive. She said, "You can unlock it." He nodded slowly, wiping the sweat from his brow. "It will take time. The encryption is complex." "How much time?" she asked. "A few hours if I am lucky." "Then we stay until you are done," Naomi said. She stood guard by the window, watching the road. The factory creaked with the wind. Somewhere far off, a siren wailed. Marcus worked in silence, the glow from the laptop casting light on his face. After an hour, Naomi turned to him. "What are you seeing?" "Financial records," he said. "Transfers from Hart Industries to offshore accounts. The signatures match Robert's handwriting, and there," his voice trailed off as he clicked another file. Naomi walked closer. On the screen was a list of coded messages and dates. "These are communications between Robert and someone labeled V. Victor Lang," Naomi said. "He was part of it?" "Maybe at first," Marcus said. "But look at this message. Dated 2 days before the collapse. The plan is wrong. He will not survive it. I am out." Naomi stared at the screen. "So Victor tried to stop it." Marcus nodded grimly. "And they killed him for it." The truth settled like a weight between them. "We need to make this public," Naomi said. "We will," Marcus said. "But we need one more thing. Proof that ties Robert to the attack directly." Naomi frowned. "How do we get that?" Marcus closed the laptop and met her eyes. "We go back to the beginning, the construction site. The air seemed to tighten around them. "That place is crawling with his people," she said. "Exactly," he replied, "which means the evidence is still there. He would never imagine anyone would dare return." Naomi hesitated. "Then we need to be smarter than they expect." Marcus nodded. "We have until sunrise. After that, the world wakes up, and so does Robert's army." Outside, the wind shifted, carrying the distant hum of the city like a whisper of warning. Naomi looked out into the darkness, clutching the drive against her chest. "Lillian gave her life for this," she said. "Let us make sure it was not for nothing." Marcus met her gaze, his voice steady. "We will, no matter what it costs." The night closed in around them, two shadows preparing to walk straight into the lion's den, armed only with truth and the courage of the living. The sky was still dark when Naomi and Marcus reached the edge of the abandoned construction site. The air was cold, heavy with the smell of rust and wet earth. The place looked almost the same as the night Naomi had pulled him from the ground, except now it was silent, stripped of all workers and machines. Floodlights stood tilted like forgotten sentinels, and the open pit yawned before them like a scar on the city's skin. Marcus tightened his coat and looked around. "It feels different in daylight," he said. "More empty." "Evil always hides best in silence," Naomi replied. They moved carefully, their footsteps crunching over gravel. Naomi's flashlight beam cut through the fog, catching glimpses of twisted metal and broken scaffolding. Marcus carried the hard drive in his pocket, a small piece of truth that had already cost them too much. "We are looking for anything they missed," Naomi said. "Something physical that connects Robert to this place." Marcus nodded, scanning the shadows. If Victor tried to stop the plan, he might have hidden something here. They searched in near silence, the wind whispering through the steel beams. After several minutes, Naomi stopped near a stack of wooden pallets. Something glinted beneath them, a small, metallic object half buried in the dirt. She crouched and brushed it off. It was a key fob, engraved with the same stylized letter H that Marcus had seen on his cufflink. "This belongs to you," she said, handing it to him. Marcus turned it over in his hand. "No," he said softly, "this is not mine. It is Robert's. He drives a black sedan registered to the company." Naomi frowned. "Then he was here." "Yes," Marcus said. "He was here that night." He knelt, pressing the fob's button. A faint beep echoed from somewhere deeper in the site. They followed the sound to a small trailer office, sitting crooked on its supports. Inside, the air was stale, filled with the scent of oil and dust. Papers littered the floor, and a cracked monitor glowed faintly from residual power. Naomi found a half-burned notebook near the desk. The first few pages were scorched, but the rest were still legible. "It is Victor's handwriting," she said. Marcus leaned over her shoulder. "Read it." The entries were short, rushed, like a man writing between moments of fear. "March 10th, Naomi read aloud. "They changed the plan. Robert wants the collapse staged before inspection. He says it will make the board panic and sign over emergency control. I tried to warn Marcus, but he ignored my call. If anything happens, the footage is in the security server under file name Deep Earth." Marcus felt a cold weight settle in his chest. "He tried to save me," he said quietly. "He really did." Naomi closed the notebook and looked up at him. "Then the final proof is still here. The security server." Marcus nodded. "It is probably inside that container." He pointed to a steel box near the back of the trailer labeled Site Systems. Naomi approached it and found a small keypad lock. "Can you open it?" Marcus studied it for a moment. "Give me a minute." His fingers worked quickly, his mind slipping back into the precision of the man he used to be, the one who built systems and trusted numbers more than people. The lock clicked open. Inside was a small server unit, lights still blinking weakly from a backup battery. "It is still running," Marcus said in disbelief. He connected a portable cable from his laptop and began downloading the data. Lines of code streamed across the screen, cold and mechanical, but beneath them lived the truth they needed. "Once we have this, it is over," Naomi said. "He cannot hide from this." Marcus's jaw tightened. "He will try, but this time, the story will speak louder than his money." A sound outside made Naomi freeze, the low growl of an engine. She turned off the flashlight. Someone is here. Marcus looked up sharply. How could they have found us? They might have tracked your phone, she whispered. Or maybe they followed the drive signal. The headlights swept across the site, cutting through the fog. 2 figures stepped out of a vehicle. Naomi's pulse quickened as she recognized Robert's tall frame. He came himself, she said. Marcus's eyes hardened. Then he knows it is ending. They crouched behind the trailer, listening. Robert's voice carried through the air, calm and assured. Find them. End it tonight. The other man nodded and began moving toward the trailer. Naomi looked at Marcus, her voice barely audible. We cannot run. Not yet. Why not? He whispered. Because if we disconnect the server now, the files might corrupt, she said. We have to finish the download. Marcus checked the screen. 3 more minutes. The footsteps grew closer. Naomi glanced around, her gaze landing on a pile of metal rods nearby. She picked one up quietly and motioned for Marcus to stay low. The second man reached the trailer door, his flashlight slicing through the dark. Naomi held her breath as the beam passed inches from her face. Then, in one swift motion, she swung the metal bar against the doorframe, knocking the flashlight out of his hand. He stumbled backward, cursing. Marcus grabbed the laptop and yanked the cable free just as Robert shouted, "Get them!" Naomi and Marcus bolted through the back exit, dirt flying under their shoes. The download was complete, the drive glowing faintly in Marcus's grip. Behind them, Robert's man fired a warning shot into the air, the sound echoing across the empty site. Naomi pushed Marcus toward the truck parked beyond the fence. "Go," she shouted. They jumped in, and Marcus hit the ignition. The engine sputtered to life, tires skidding over the gravel. In the rearview mirror, Robert stood motionless in the fog, watching them disappear into the night. Naomi's heart pounded, her hands shaking. "Did we get it?" she asked. Marcus looked down at the laptop on his lap, the progress bar frozen at 100%. "We got it," he said. The first hint of dawn began to bleed into the sky. "Then this ends at sunrise," Naomi said. Marcus nodded slowly, his eyes fixed on the horizon. At sunrise, the truth wakes up. And somewhere far behind them, in the quiet hollow of the earth, the echoes of buried lies began to stir, waiting to be unearthed. The first light of morning cut across the skyline as Naomi and Marcus pulled into the underground parking garage beneath the Hart Industries tower. The air inside was cool and metallic, echoing with the hum of the city waking above. Marcus shut off the engine and turned to her. "This is it," he said. "The truth is on that drive, and the people who buried me are sitting in my boardroom right now." Naomi looked at him, her expression calm but her voice steady. "Then it is time they see what they built." She handed him the laptop. "How long do we have before they realize we are here?" "Not long," Marcus said. "Robert will have men watching the entrances. Then we use the one he will not expect," Naomi said, pointing to a maintenance elevator at the far end of the garage. They moved quickly, their footsteps quiet on the concrete. The elevator creaked as it rose, stopping on the 34th floor. The doors opened to a hallway of glass and steel, empty except for the faint buzz of fluorescent lights. Naomi followed Marcus toward the executive suite, where a meeting was already in progress. Through the glass wall, she could see them Robert at the head of the table, surrounded by board members, his voice smooth and confident. "Gentlemen," he was saying, "with Marcus's unfortunate passing, it is my duty to ensure stability. Today we finalize the transfer of authority." Marcus's hand clenched at his side. "He is already signing away my company." "Then stop him," Naomi said. He nodded, took a breath, and pushed open the door. The room fell silent. Heads turned. Pens froze mid-signature. Robert's eyes widened, the color draining from his face. "Marcus," he said, forcing a smile. "You are alive." "Disappointed?" Marcus replied, his tone like steel. Robert laughed nervously. "No, of course not. This is incredible news." Marcus walked to the table, placing the laptop on its surface. "I imagine it is inconvenient news," he said, "especially for a man who built his promotion on my grave." Robert's composure cracked for a moment before he recovered. "I think you have been misinformed. There was a terrible accident, but Marcus pressed a key, and the projector on the wall flickered to life. The video from the flash drive began to play. The same footage Naomi had seen in the warehouse filled the room, Robert's voice clear, cold, ordering the collapse, his face illuminated by the flickering light of the recording. Gasps spread around the table. One of the board members dropped his pen. This cannot be real, Robert stammered. Doctored footage. Then explain why your car key was found at the site, Naomi said, stepping forward. Her voice carried through the room, calm and unwavering. Explain the missing funds transferred to your private account in Zurich. Explain why a man named Victor Lang vanished 2 days before the collapse. The board members turned toward Robert, murmuring in disbelief. His facade crumbled, anger replacing charm. You think you can walk in here and accuse me? He hissed. You have no idea what power you are playing with. Power, Marcus said softly. That word almost killed me. He looked around the table. Every one of you has turned a blind eye while men like him fed on greed. But not anymore, not in my company. Security guards appeared at the door, drawn by the commotion. Robert took a step back, his voice rising. You cannot prove anything. That video could have been fabricated. None of this will hold up. Naomi held up the hard drive. Then let the authorities decide. She turned to the guards. Call the police. Tell them you are detaining a suspect for attempted murder and corporate fraud. For a moment, no one moved. Then one of the guards nodded slowly and pulled out his radio. Robert lunged forward, but Marcus blocked him, his voice low and dangerous. It is over. Robert glared at him. You think this makes you a hero? You will destroy your empire. Then let it fall, Marcus said. It is better to rebuild on truth than rule over lies. The guards restrained Robert, his protests echoing through the hall as they led him away. The boardroom fell silent again. Marcus turned off the projector and closed the laptop. Naomi stood beside him, her expression unreadable. One of the board members cleared his throat. Mr. Hart, what happens now? Marcus looked out the window, the morning sun breaking through the haze, lighting the glass towers of the city. Now, he said, we start over. He turned to Naomi. You should come with me. Where? She asked. Home, he said simply. Whatever that means now. They walked out together, leaving the room in stunned silence. In the elevator, Naomi finally exhaled. You did it. We did it, Marcus said. Lillian, Victor, and you. Without you, I would still be in the ground. She looked at him, her eyes soft. You were never meant to stay buried, Marcus. Some truths are stronger than the earth that tries to hide them. As the elevator doors opened to the lobby, cameras flashed. News crews had already gathered outside, the story breaking faster than Robert's lies could die. Marcus stepped into the light, shoulders squared, ready to face whatever came next. Naomi walked beside him, the quiet strength of a woman who had turned compassion into courage. The city buzzed with noise, but in that moment, for the first time in a long time, the sound felt clean. The truth was free. The news spread through the city like a wildfire. By afternoon, every major network carried the story of Marcus Hart's miraculous return and the stunning corruption scandal that had erupted inside his own company. Outside the glass tower of Hart Industries, reporters crowded the sidewalks, microphones raised toward the entrance. Marcus stood inside the lobby beside Naomi, watching the chaos through the tinted doors. It feels strange, he said quietly. The truth is out, but it does not feel like victory. Naomi looked at him, because truth is not about winning. It is about surviving what it costs. He nodded slowly. Security officers escorted employees past the press, while police cars lined the curb. Robert had been taken into custody hours earlier, his face pale and eyes hollow when they led him away. Yet Marcus knew the battle was not finished. He had seen men like Robert before, men who built their power on layers of influence that reached far beyond a single arrest. They will come for me next, Marcus said. The investors, the politicians, the people who used Robert as their shield. They will not forgive this. Then you stand taller, Naomi replied. You do not hide from your own truth. He looked at her, a faint smile crossing his face. You sound like you have done this before. I have had to, she said simply. The sound of camera shutters outside grew louder. Marcus took a breath and turned toward the entrance. I need to face them. Naomi followed him into the sunlight, the flash of cameras blinding for a moment. Reporters shouted questions. Mr. Hart, is it true your lawyer tried to kill you? Are you stepping down as CEO? Who is the woman with you? Marcus raised his hand for silence. The crowd quieted, microphones thrust forward. His voice was calm, carrying through the noise. Last week, I was buried alive by greed, by lies, and by the people I trusted most. I should not be standing here, but I am, because one person refused to walk away when everyone else did. He turned to Naomi briefly, then back to the cameras. The evidence we have given to the authorities will prove that Robert Lang and his partners orchestrated the attack on me to seize control of this company. Justice will take its course. But what matters most now is rebuilding not just this business, but the integrity it was supposed to stand for. A reporter called out, "Do you plan to press charges against the board?" Marcus shook his head. The law will handle those responsible. My job is to make sure Hart Industries stands for truth again. From this day forward, we will create a transparency foundation to fund investigative journalism and corporate ethics. It will be named after the woman who gave her life for this truth, Lillian Vega. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Naomi felt a lump rise in her throat. She had not known he planned to say that. Marcus continued, "The truth is not a weapon. It is a mirror. Sometimes we do not like what we see, but it is the only way to grow." The press erupted in more questions, but he stepped back, signaling that he was finished. Inside again, Naomi turned to him. "You did not have to mention Lillian." "I did," Marcus said. "She earned it." They walked toward the elevators, exhaustion etched into both their faces. "You should rest," Naomi said. "You have been through too much in too little time." "So have you," Marcus said. "When was the last time you slept?" "Before all this started," she said, smiling faintly. He chuckled softly. "Then maybe we both deserve a few hours of peace." But peace was a fragile thing, and it never lasted long. As the elevator doors opened to the top floor, Marcus's assistant rushed toward them. "Sir," she said, her face pale, "you need to see this." She handed him a tablet. On the screen was a breaking news alert. Corporate whistleblower missing after scandal. The photo was grainy but unmistakable. It was Victor Lang. Naomi felt her stomach drop. "He is alive." "Or he was," Marcus said grimly. The article claimed Victor had been hiding under an alias in another state but vanished after the story broke. Witnesses reported seeing two men escort him into a black vehicle hours before. "Robert must have had backup," Naomi said. "He was never working alone." Marcus stared at the photo, the determination in his eyes hardening once more. "Then we find whoever took Victor. He tried to save me once. Now it is my turn." Naomi nodded. "You are not doing this alone." Marcus looked at her. "You have already done more than anyone could ask." "That does not mean I stop now," she said. "If we walk away, they win." He studied her face for a long moment, then nodded. "All right, we finish this together." Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, clouds gathering again over the city as if echoing the storm that still lingered around them. The first drops of rain struck the windows as Marcus stood at the edge of his office, looking out at the skyline. "It never ends, does it?" he said. Naomi joined him, her reflection beside his in the glass. "No," she said, "but neither does hope." He smiled faintly at that, the sound of rain growing steadier. Somewhere beyond the noise of the city, another truth waited to be found, buried under the weight of fear and silence. And once again, it would be a woman's courage that dared to dig it up. The rain turned the city streets into mirrors, reflecting streaks of yellow light from passing cars as Naomi stepped out of a cab in front of a small cafe tucked between two office buildings. It was late evening, and the place was nearly empty. Marcus sat in the corner, wearing a dark jacket and a cap pulled low, a newspaper spread before him. When she approached, he looked up, relief flickering in his eyes. "You made it," he said quietly. "I had to lose a car that was following me," Naomi replied, sliding into the seat opposite him. "Someone has been watching my apartment since last night." Marcus's jaw tightened. "They are trying to scare you." "It will not work," she said. "What did you find?" Marcus unfolded a folder filled with printed documents. The police are holding Robert without bail, but someone is paying a lot of money to keep his name out of the headlines. The deeper I dig, the more I find the same company name, Artemis Holdings. It is a shell corporation, tied to at least 4 offshore accounts. Whoever owns it was funding Robert all along. Naomi studied the papers, tracing the lines of connection with her finger. So Robert was just a middleman. Exactly, Marcus said. And I think whoever runs Artemis Holdings is the one who took Victor. The waitress appeared briefly with coffee, and they both waited until she walked away before continuing. If that is true, they are still active, Naomi said, and if Victor is alive, they will use him to find the files. Which means we have to find him first, Marcus said. The last confirmed location was a motel near the state line. I have a contact who can trace the vehicle plate from the witness report. Naomi hesitated. It could be dangerous, Marcus. These people have money, power, and nothing left to lose. So do I, he said softly, except I am not fighting for money anymore. They left the cafe through the back door, disappearing into the wet night. The drive out of the city was long, the rain falling harder with every mile. Naomi kept her eyes on the road while Marcus searched through his phone for updates. Anything? She asked. Yes, he said. My contact sent me the plate match. The car was rented by an Artemis subsidiary. It was last tracked near a warehouse outside the industrial district. Naomi frowned. Another warehouse. I am beginning to hate those. Me too, Marcus said with a faint smile. The humor lasted only a moment before fading into silence. They reached the warehouse just after midnight. The area was deserted, lit only by the distant glow of a single street lamp. Marcus turned off the headlights and scanned the perimeter. We go in quiet, he said. Naomi nodded. You are not exactly dressed for stealth. He looked down at his expensive shoes and gave a small laugh. Then you lead. She slipped through a side entrance where the door hung crooked on its hinges. Inside, the air smelled of oil and cold metal. The building stretched wide, filled with crates and machinery covered in dust. Naomi crouched behind a stack of pallets, signaling Marcus to stay low. From somewhere deeper in the building came the faint murmur of voices. They moved closer until they could see a small office at the far end, its window glowing with light. 2 men stood guard outside, their postures sharp and alert. Inside the office, a third figure was visible, seated and motionless. That could be him, Naomi whispered. Marcus's breath caught. Victor. Naomi studied the guards. We need a distraction. She picked up a loose piece of metal and tossed it toward the far corner. It clattered loudly, echoing through the space. One of the guards turned. What was that? Probably rats, the other said, but both moved cautiously toward the noise. Naomi took the chance, slipping across the floor to the office door. Marcus followed close behind. The door was unlocked. She opened it slowly, revealing Victor Lang slumped in a chair, his wrists bound but his eyes open. He looked weak, but alive. Marcus, he whispered, disbelief washing over his face. I thought you were dead. So did I, Marcus said. We have to get you out. Naomi began untying the ropes, her hands steady despite the pounding of her heart. They will be back any second, Victor warned. There is something you need to know. Save it for the car, Naomi said. No, Victor said urgently. Robert was not the one who ordered it. He took the payment, but the person behind Artemis Holdings is higher, someone you trust. Marcus froze. Who? Before Victor could answer, the sound of shouting echoed through the warehouse. The guards had found the distraction and realized the truth. Go, Naomi said. She pulled Victor to his feet, half carrying him toward the exit. Marcus grabbed a rusted pipe from the floor and used it to block the office door behind them. They ran into the rain, Victor stumbling but determined. The car, Naomi shouted. They reached the vehicle just as a gunshot cracked through the air, shattering the passenger side mirror. Marcus shoved Victor into the back seat while Naomi started the engine. Tires screeched on the wet pavement as they sped away, the warehouse shrinking behind them. Are you hit? Naomi asked. No, Marcus said. Victor? I am fine, Victor said, his voice weak. But you need to know, the person behind all of this, it is not over. They are watching everything. Naomi glanced at him through the rearview mirror. Then let them watch, she said, because now we are coming for them. Marcus looked out the window as the rain turned into a downpour. Somewhere in the distance, lightning flashed over the skyline. The battle for truth was not finished, it had only changed shape. And this time, the ones who had been buried were done hiding. The storm had followed them all the way out of the industrial district, wind pushing against the car as if the night itself wanted to slow them down. Naomi kept her hands steady on the wheel, eyes fixed on the wet road ahead. The rain was relentless, drumming on the windshield in a rhythm that matched her heartbeat. In the back seat, Victor Lang leaned against the door, pale but conscious. Marcus sat beside him, holding a towel to the cut on Victor's temple. "Stay awake," Marcus said. "We are almost there," Victor groaned softly. "Where is there?" "A safe house," Naomi said. "Old friend of mine owns it. No one will find us tonight." The drive stretched on through empty streets until they reached the outskirts of the city. Naomi turned into a narrow dirt road lined with pine trees, the headlights cutting through the darkness. A small cabin appeared at the end of the path, half hidden by shadows. She parked beside it and helped Marcus guide Victor inside. The cabin smelled faintly of cedar and smoke. A fireplace crackled with the remnants of dying embers, and a single lamp cast warm light across the worn furniture. Marcus lowered Victor onto the couch while Naomi found a first aid kit in the kitchen. She cleaned his wound in silence, her movements careful but quick. When she finished, Victor opened his eyes. "You saved me," he whispered. "You both did." Naomi smiled faintly. "We are not in the clear yet." Marcus pulled up a chair. "You said someone higher than Robert was behind Artemis Holdings. Who is it?" Victor hesitated, glancing toward the window as thunder rolled outside. "You are not going to like the answer." "Tell me anyway," Marcus said. Victor took a deep breath. "It is Eleanor Graves." Marcus froze. The name hit him like a physical blow. "That is impossible," he said. "She was my mentor. She built the company with me." "She built the company for herself," Victor said. "Robert was her pawn. Artemis Holdings belongs to her. She has been moving money out of Hart Industries for years, hiding it under different names. When you started auditing the accounts last quarter, she panicked. She hired Robert to handle it quietly, but he got greedy. That is why she turned on him too." Naomi felt the air in the room shift, tension thick and sharp. "So she was the one who ordered you to be buried alive," she said softly. Marcus's eyes darkened. "Eleanor Graves," he repeated, disbelief giving way to anger. "She raised me after my parents died. She told me the company was my legacy." "It was," Victor said, "until it became her empire." Marcus stood and began pacing. "She has the board, the press, the politicians. She will destroy us before morning." Naomi watched him carefully. "Unless we destroy her first." He stopped, looking at her. "How?" "We already have evidence that links Artemis to the money laundering," Naomi said. "But if we can connect Eleanor personally, emails, signatures, communications, then she cannot hide behind anyone else." Victor nodded weakly. "The servers at the main office hold everything. She never expected anyone to access them because only she and I had clearance. But I copied part of the system before I disappeared." "Do you still have it?" Marcus asked. Victor reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. "Right here. It has enough to start a firestorm, but you will need her digital key to unlock the rest." Naomi frowned. "And where would she keep something like that?" "In her office," Victor said. "The same office you built for her, Marcus." For a moment, the room was silent except for the sound of rain against the windows. Then Marcus said, "We go tonight." Naomi shook her head. "You are exhausted. So is he. We should wait until morning." "Morning is too late," Marcus said firmly. "She will know by sunrise that Robert is in custody. She will wipe everything clean before the day ends." Naomi could see there was no arguing with him. "Then we do it carefully," she said. "You get what we need, and I will handle the security." "You?" Marcus said with a hint of surprise. "I told you before," Naomi said. "I am not just a nurse. I grew up fixing things that were broken, including systems." Despite the situation, Marcus almost smiled. "Then let us see if you can fix a corporation." They gathered what they needed: laptops, flash drives, and a single burner phone Naomi kept for emergencies. Victor wanted to come, but Marcus made him stay behind. "You have done enough," Marcus said. "Rest. If we fail, At least one of us has to make sure the truth gets out. Victor nodded reluctantly. Be careful. Eleanor does not make threats. She finishes them. They left the cabin under a sky lit by streaks of lightning. The city skyline glowed faintly in the distance, a fortress of glass and deceit waiting for them. Naomi drove this time, her face calm but her eyes alert. Marcus sat beside her, silent, lost in thought. When they reached downtown, the tower loomed above them, every floor glowing except the top one, Eleanor's office. It was waiting, dark and still. She is there, Marcus said quietly. She never leaves before midnight. Naomi parked in the shadows of the loading dock. Then we will not either, she said. As they stepped into the building, the air felt electric, heavy with the promise of a reckoning that had been years in the making. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one that was about to break inside those walls. The elevator doors opened onto the top floor of Hard Industries, and the air inside the building felt heavier than the storm outside. Naomi stepped out first, scanning the hallway with the small flashlight from her pocket. The corridor was lined with glass walls and silent offices, the only sound coming from the faint hum of the generators. Marcus followed her, his face set with quiet determination. The security system should reset every 60 minutes, he said. If we move fast, we will have about 15 before the cameras start recording again. Naomi nodded. Then we move now. They walked quickly toward Eleanor Graves's office at the far end of the corridor. The massive double doors were made of frosted glass, and the golden plaque with her name glinted faintly under the emergency lights. Naomi stopped and knelt by the control panel beside the door. Fingerprint lock, she whispered. Give me a second. She removed a small device from her pocket and pressed it against the sensor. The screen flickered once before turning green. You can thank my friend from the hospital lab for that, she said. Marcus almost smiled. Remind me never to underestimate you again. The doors slid open silently, revealing the room inside. Eleanor's office looked more like a private museum than a workspace, walls of glass overlooking the city, shelves lined with awards, and a massive desk of polished mahogany. The scent of expensive perfume lingered in the air. She has been preparing for decades, Marcus said softly. Naomi walked to the desk and powered on the computer. This is where she keeps the master key, right? Yes, Marcus said. It should be stored under a program labeled Sentinel. Naomi's fingers flew across the keyboard, bypassing the surface-level firewalls. She has layers of encryption. It is almost like she knew someone would come. She has always been 3 steps ahead, Marcus said bitterly. But not tonight. The monitor flickered, and a prompt appeared. Insert authorization token. Naomi frowned. That must be the digital key Victor mentioned. Marcus pulled the flash drive from his pocket and inserted it into the port. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the screen lit up with a series of documents and video files. We are in, Naomi said. Marcus leaned closer. The files contained transfers, signed approvals, and encrypted messages, all tracing back to Eleanor Graves. The proof was undeniable. She did it, Naomi said. Every missing dollar, every deal, every death, it all leads to her. Marcus exhaled slowly. Then we end this now. But before Naomi could respond, a soft voice echoed from behind them. You always were dramatic, Marcus. They turned. Eleanor Graves stood in the doorway, her silver hair perfectly arranged, her expression calm. She wore a dark, tailored suit, and in her hand was a small pistol, its barrel steady. I suppose I should thank you, she said. I thought Robert would handle it, but I see now that some men cannot finish what they start. Marcus took a step forward. You tried to kill me. I tried to save the company, Eleanor said. You were going to destroy it with your idealism and your charity projects. Do you have any idea how much power you threw away trying to play the savior? Power means nothing if it kills the people who trust you, Marcus said. Trust? Eleanor laughed softly. There is no trust in business, Marcus. There is only control. Naomi stood still, her mind racing. You do not have to do this, she said. You already lost. The files are yours, but so are the copies we sent to 3 separate cloud servers. Eleanor's gaze shifted to her. You are the nurse, aren't you? The one who pulled him out of the dirt. You should have stayed where you belonged. Naomi met her eyes. Where I belong is exactly where I am. Marcus moved slightly, positioning himself between Eleanor and Naomi. You will not hurt her. Eleanor smiled faintly. You always were sentimental. Her finger tightened slightly on the trigger, but Naomi was already moving. She grabbed the nearest object, a heavy glass award from the shelf, and threw it at the desk lamp beside Eleanor. The shattering sound and sudden flash of sparks distracted her just long enough for Marcus to lunge forward. The gun fired once, the sound deafening in the enclosed room. The bullet grazed Marcus's arm, but he managed to knock the weapon from Eleanor's hand. It clattered across the marble floor. Naomi kicked it away and grabbed the tablet from the desk, clutching it to her chest. We have what we need. Let us go, she shouted. Marcus turned to Eleanor, who was breathing hard, her calm facade finally breaking. You built this company on lies, he said, but truth always finds a way through. You will not win, Eleanor hissed. You cannot fight the system. I am not fighting the system, Marcus said. I am rebuilding it. Naomi pulled him toward the door, her hand gripping his wrist tightly. They ran down the corridor, alarms beginning to blare as the building's security system rebooted. Behind them, Eleanor shouted, You will regret this. But her voice was swallowed by the rising sirens. By the time they reached the elevator, Marcus was bleeding, his sleeve soaked with red. Naomi pressed the button repeatedly, her breath coming fast. Stay with me, she said. He nodded, pain etched into his face. She will come after us. Then we finish it before she can, Naomi said. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped inside. As they descended, Marcus leaned against the wall, his voice barely above a whisper. You should not have thrown that award. It worked, did it not? Naomi said, smiling through the tension. He managed a small laugh. You are impossible. So are you, she replied. When the doors opened at the lobby, the rain outside was still pouring, thunder rolling through the distance. They stepped into it without hesitation, the storm wrapping around them like a promise. In her hand, Naomi held the tablet that could destroy everything Eleanor had built, and perhaps, finally, free the truth once and for all. The rain had slowed to a fine mist by the time Naomi and Marcus reached the car. The street was nearly empty, the city asleep beneath the heavy clouds. Naomi unlocked the doors and helped Marcus into the passenger seat, his arm bleeding through his sleeve. She started the engine, the soft hum blending with the rhythm of the rain. You need a hospital, she said, her voice firm but calm. Marcus shook his head. No hospitals. Eleanor will have people watching. She knows how to find loose ends. Naomi tore a strip from her scarf and wrapped it around his arm, tightening it enough to stop the bleeding. You are lucky it just grazed you, she said. Any deeper, and you would not be giving me orders right now. Despite the pain, Marcus smiled faintly. You have gotten used to giving me orders. Somebody has to keep you alive, Naomi said. You are terrible at it yourself. She drove through the rain, soaked streets, every headlight and passing shadow making her tense. Where do we go now? She asked. Back to Victor, Marcus said. He will know how to decrypt the files. Once we have the proof, we give it to Lillian's network. You trust them? Naomi asked. Lillian trusted them, Marcus said. That is enough for me. The drive back to the cabin was silent, except for the wipers scraping against the glass. When they arrived, the air was thick with the smell of pine and wet soil. Naomi parked near the tree line and helped Marcus out of the car. The cabin's lights were on, a faint golden glow spilling through the windows. He is awake, Marcus said. Naomi nodded, but her instincts stirred uneasily. Wait here, she said. She crept to the window and peered inside. Victor was there, sitting on the couch, but he was not alone. A woman in a black coat stood near the fireplace, her back turned, speaking into a phone. Naomi could not hear the words, but she recognized the voice. It was Eleanor Graves. Her heart jumped. She turned quickly and ran back to the car. She found him, Naomi whispered. Marcus's face went pale. How? I do not know, Naomi said. But she is here. Marcus clenched his fists. We cannot let her walk out with him or the evidence. Naomi reached into the glove compartment and pulled out the small flare gun she kept for emergencies. You distract her. I will get Victor. Marcus nodded. Be careful. He stepped out of the car, moving slowly through the rain toward the cabin. Naomi circled around the back, her shoes silent against the wet ground. Through the cracked window, she saw Eleanor standing over Victor, who looked terrified but defiant. "You should have stayed hidden," Eleanor said coldly. "You were never smart enough to disappear properly." "You taught me everything I know," Victor said. "Maybe you should have taught me loyalty," she replied. Marcus stepped through the front door, his voice cutting through the tension. "Loyalty is a dangerous thing to demand from people you betray." Eleanor turned sharply, surprise flashing across her face. "Marcus," she said, her voice smooth again. "You look well for a dead man." "You should know," Marcus said. "You buried me." She laughed softly. "You make it sound so personal." "It was business, nothing more." "Then consider this my business," he said. He took a step forward. "You are finished, Eleanor. The files you tried to protect, they are already backed up and sent to the press." Her expression flickered, but she quickly masked it. "You always were good at pretending to be brave," she said. "But we both know you are not capable of pulling that trigger." She glanced toward the door, her hand brushing against the concealed weapon in her coat. Naomi appeared behind her before she could reach it, striking her wrist with the butt of the flare gun. The pistol clattered to the floor, and Eleanor cried out, spinning around. Naomi's voice was calm but sharp. "Do not move." Eleanor smiled bitterly. "You think you are a hero?" "No," Naomi said. "Just tired of watching people like you win." Marcus moved to Victor's side, untying the rope around his wrists. "Are you all right?" he asked. "She showed up 20 minutes ago," Victor said. "Said she wanted to make a deal." "There are no deals left," Marcus said. He turned to Eleanor. "It is over." Eleanor straightened her jacket, her composure unnerving. "You have no idea how deep this goes. You think destroying me will fix anything? The system will replace me by morning." Naomi's grip tightened on the flare gun. "Then we will burn the system too," Eleanor smirked. "You talk like revolutionaries, but you are still just two people standing in the rain." Marcus met her gaze. "That is how every revolution begins." Outside, thunder rolled across the sky, and lightning flashed, illuminating Eleanor's face for a brief, haunting second. Naomi lowered the flare gun slightly. "What happens now?" she asked. Marcus looked at Eleanor, then at Victor. "We take her to the authorities," he said, "but not before we finish decrypting everything. The world needs to see what she built." Eleanor tilted her head. "And if the world does not care, then we make them care," Naomi said. Marcus guided Victor toward the door while Naomi kept her eyes on Eleanor. As they stepped into the rain, the storm began to rise again, the wind howling through the trees. Eleanor stood in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the light. "You cannot win against power," she called after them. Naomi turned back once. "Power only lasts until someone tells the truth." Then she closed the door. As they disappeared into the dark, the rain washed away the blood, the lies, and the last fragments of fear. The night was far from over, but for the first time, they were no longer running, they were fighting back. The road back into the city was quiet except for the low hum of the engine and the steady rhythm of rain against the windshield. Naomi drove with both hands tight on the steering wheel, her knuckles pale from the pressure. Marcus sat beside her, his gaze fixed on the horizon where faint streaks of dawn were beginning to appear. Victor sat in the back seat, pale but alert, holding a laptop that displayed lines of encrypted code. The files taken from Eleanor's office were transferring to Lillian's network through a secure connection. "It is working," Victor said softly. "The data is uploading." Marcus nodded without turning. "Once the upload completes, the press will have it. Every transaction, every signature, every lie she ever hid." Naomi's voice was calm but carried an edge of exhaustion. "And what happens after that? Do we just disappear?" Marcus finally looked at her. "We tell the truth, publicly. No more hiding." Naomi sighed. "The truth does not protect people like us, Marcus. It exposes them." He gave a faint, weary smile. "Then let them see us. Let them see everything." The rain eased as they reached the outskirts of the city. Victor closed the laptop and said, "The upload is at 80%. We need a stable connection for a few more minutes." Naomi pulled into a gas station parking lot, the neon sign flickering above them. The world felt suspended between night and morning. Marcus leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes for a moment. "Do you think she will come after us again?" Naomi asked quietly. "Eleanor does not strike twice in the same way," he said. "But she will have someone else do it." Victor looked out the window. "She still has friends on the board. They will not go down quietly." Naomi checked the side mirrors. A dark sedan had just pulled into the station across the lot. She watched as two men got out, both wearing black jackets, pretending to check their phones. "We have company," she whispered. Marcus opened his eyes. "Are you sure?" "Positive," Naomi said. "They are not here for gas." Victor's voice trembled slightly. "They found us faster than I thought they could." Marcus turned toward Naomi. "Finish the upload. I will distract them." "No," she said firmly. "You are still bleeding. We do this together." Marcus looked at her, the same stubborn resolve reflected in both their faces. "All right," he said. "Together." He stepped out of the car, his movements calm and deliberate. The two men noticed him immediately, one reaching into his coat. Before he could draw anything, Naomi stepped out on the opposite side, raising her voice just enough to carry over the sound of the rain. "Looking for something?" The men hesitated, their eyes darting between her and Marcus. "Stay in the car, Victor," Marcus said quietly. Victor ducked low, keeping the laptop close. The taller of the two men smirked. "You should not have come back to the city, Mr. Hart. You should tell your boss she should not have underestimated the people she buried," Marcus said. The man pulled out a gun, the barrel gleaming under the neon light. "This is not personal, just business." Naomi stepped forward, rain dripping from her hair, her voice steady. "That is what they always say before they lose their humanity." The man turned his aim toward her, but before he could fire, Marcus kicked over a metal trash can, sending it crashing into him. Naomi lunged forward, grabbing the gunman's wrist and twisting it hard enough to make him drop the weapon. The other man charged at Marcus, but Naomi swung the discarded gun toward his shoulder, striking him hard. Both attackers stumbled back, caught off guard by the resistance. Marcus grabbed Naomi's hand. "Now!" They ran for the car, tires screeching as Naomi slammed her foot on the accelerator. Bullets cracked through the air, shattering the back window, but the car sped away before either man could aim again. "Victor," Naomi shouted. "How much longer?" 10%, he said, his voice shaking. "Almost done." Marcus looked over his shoulder. The sedan had recovered and was following them, headlights cutting through the rain. "We are not going to make it to the highway," Naomi said. Marcus pointed ahead. "Take the bridge. If we can block their line of sight, we can lose them." The car raced onto the old steel bridge, the tires hissing against the wet surface. Naomi swerved sharply as the sedan closed in behind them. "Upload complete," Victor shouted. "It is done." Marcus grabbed the flash drive from him. "Good. Then hold on." Naomi turned the wheel sharply and braked, just as the sedan tried to overtake them. The other car skidded out of control, spinning across the bridge and crashing into the guardrail. Sparks flew as metal scraped against metal. For a moment, everything was still. Naomi's hands trembled on the wheel, her breath ragged. Marcus looked at her, his voice soft. "You all right?" "I will be," she said. "Are they?" "Alive," Marcus said. "Leave them. The police will find them." They drove in silence for several minutes, the first light of morning breaking through the clouds. Victor sat back, relief washing over his face. "The files are out," he said. "It is over." Marcus shook his head. "No, it is just beginning." Naomi glanced at him. "You mean the public reaction?" "I mean the reckoning," he said. "People like Eleanor built empires on silence. Now everyone will hear the noise." Naomi smiled faintly, the fatigue in her eyes softened by a spark of hope. "Then let us make it loud." As the sun rose behind them, painting the wet roads in gold, they kept driving toward the horizon, three people bound not by blood or power, but by truth. The world would wake to a new day, and for the first time, the buried would be the ones writing the story. By the time they reached the outskirts of the city again, the rain had stopped, leaving behind a gray morning heavy with mist. Naomi pulled the car into a quiet overlook above the river, the skyline faint and distant through the fog. Marcus stepped out, stretching his injured arm. and watched the slow current move beneath the bridge. Victor stayed inside the car, exhausted, his head resting against the window. Naomi joined Marcus, wrapping her coat tighter around herself. The silence between them carried both relief and tension. "The files are out," she said softly. "The world knows the truth." Marcus nodded. "It is strange," he said. "I thought it would feel like victory, but it feels like loss." Naomi looked at him, her eyes calm. "Because the people who built this lie were people you trusted." He gave a tired smile. "I trusted them more than I trusted myself. That was my mistake." "It was not a mistake to believe in something good," she said. "It only becomes one when you stop believing after you get hurt." He looked at her, the faintest warmth in his expression. "Do you ever stop surprising me?" "I try not to," she said with a faint grin. They stood there for a while, watching the mist roll over the water. The sound of Naomi's phone broke the quiet. She glanced at the screen. "It is Lillian's network," she said. "They want to speak with you." Marcus took the phone. "This is Marcus Hart." A voice came through the speaker, steady, professional, and familiar. "Mr. Hart, this is Mariah from the Beacon. We received the data dump early this morning. It is already spreading across major outlets. The authorities have confirmed an investigation into Eleanor Graves and several other executives. But you need to know she has vanished." Marcus's grip on the phone tightened. "Vanished?" "Yes," Mariah said. "Her house, her accounts, even her plane records nothing. It is as if she erased herself." Naomi's eyes widened. "She is running, or preparing something worse," Marcus said. "Thank you, Mariah. Keep the files secure." He handed the phone back to Naomi and turned toward the city. "She will not stop. She is too proud to vanish quietly." Naomi sighed. "Then we prepare too." They got back in the car and drove toward the hotel where Mariah's team had set up a temporary media base. The streets were already filling with reporters and onlookers, people gathering around screens showing Eleanor's face beside the headline, "Billionaire power broker behind corporate conspiracy." Marcus walked through the lobby, heads turning as people recognized him. A journalist approached, microphone in hand. "Mr. Hart, how does it feel knowing your former partner is now the most wanted executive in the country?" Marcus paused, then said clearly, "It does not feel like justice until the people she hurt are heard." Cameras flashed. Naomi watched him carefully, admiring how his voice never wavered even when his eyes looked tired. Inside the conference room, Mariah and her small team worked around multiple screens displaying files, transactions, and maps. "Eleanor's network spans continents," Mariah said. "You exposed a web that reaches banking, construction, and politics. People are scrambling." "That is good," Marcus said. "Let them scramble." Victor joined them, holding the decrypted folder. "There is something else," he said. "The last part of her data references something called the Paragon Initiative. It is not in the public files." Naomi frowned. "What is that?" "A fund," Victor said, "but not financial, something to do with bioengineering and surveillance." "It is huge, Marcus. Whatever she was planning, it went beyond money." Mariah looked uneasy. "If this goes public, it could destabilize multiple sectors. Are you sure you want to release this?" Marcus stared at the screen, his voice firm. "The truth is not ours to keep." Naomi placed a hand on his arm. "Then we release it, carefully. If we push too fast, she will strike back." "She already has," Victor said, pointing to the screen where new reports scrolled. A government data breach had been detected that morning, traced to an unknown source inside the city. "She is trying to destroy the evidence before the investigation begins," he said. Naomi straightened. "Then she is still here." The realization hung in the air. Marcus turned toward the window, the city's glass towers reflecting the pale light of dawn. "She will come after us again. This time not with lawyers or hitmen, but with silence." Naomi looked at him. "Then we do not go quiet." Mariah disconnected the main monitor and handed Marcus a hard drive. "Keep this off-grid. It contains the unedited version of everything, including the Paragon files. If something happens to us, that drive is the last truth left." Marcus took it carefully. "We will not let it disappear." As they left the building, the crowd outside had doubled. their faces filled with both outrage and fascination. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashing like lightning. Naomi shielded her eyes, guiding Marcus and Victor toward the car. For a brief moment, Marcus stopped and looked back at the crowd. He saw faces, workers, students, parents all staring at the screens showing Eleanor's downfall. But beneath the noise, he felt a quiet question rise in his chest. Was this victory, or just another storm waiting to break? Naomi opened the car door. "We should move," she said softly. He nodded and got in. As they drove away, the sky began to brighten, streaks of pink and gold cutting through the gray. "She will not go down easily," Naomi said. "Neither will we," Marcus replied. The river glistened beside them, calm and unbroken, carrying the reflection of a city that was finally beginning to see itself for what it truly was. Night returned to the city with an uneasy calm, the kind that made every shadow feel alive. The skyline glimmered under a pale moon, but beneath the light was tension, a storm that had not yet broken. In a quiet hotel room overlooking the river, Naomi sat at a small desk, the hard drive Mariah had given them resting beside her laptop. Marcus stood by the window, his reflection faint against the glass. "Every news outlet is running the story," she said. "Eleanor's face is everywhere. Her network is crumbling, but she still has people hiding her." Marcus's voice was low. "People like that always do. Fear keeps them loyal." Naomi looked at him. "And what keeps you going?" He turned from the window. "You," he said simply. "You kept me alive when I did not deserve to be." "That has to mean something." She said nothing, but her eyes softened. Victor walked in from the next room, a towel around his shoulders and dark circles under his eyes. "The more I study these files, the clearer it becomes," he said. "The Paragon Initiative was not just a project, it was a weapon. It links Eleanor's shell companies to classified government data. She was building a system to track and predict financial collapses before they happened, using insider data. Whoever controlled it could make or break economies." Naomi frowned. "That sounds like more than one person could manage." "Exactly," Victor said. "She had partners, but she deleted their names from every database. Only one file references them, the consortium. It is encrypted under a triple key. She must still have access somewhere." Marcus crossed his arms. "If we find that key, we find her." Naomi glanced at the clock. "Do we have time? Every hour she is out there, she is erasing herself deeper." "We make time," Marcus said. He turned to Victor. "Where would she hide something this valuable?" Victor hesitated. "There is one place she always said was safer than any vault. The archive beneath the old Hart Industries headquarters." Marcus's face tightened. "The one we closed 5 years ago." "Yes," Victor said. "The one only you and she had clearance for." Naomi stood, already reaching for her coat. "Then that is where we go." Marcus nodded. "Tonight." The drive to the old headquarters was long and silent, the road cutting through the industrial edge of the city where factories stood like sleeping giants. The building itself rose from the ground like a forgotten monument, windows dark, the air thick with dust and decay. Naomi parked near a side entrance, her flashlight beam slicing through the gloom. "We go through the basement," Marcus said. "The archive vault is below level 4. "And what happens if she is there?" Naomi asked. Marcus's jaw tightened. "Then we finish what she started." Inside, the air was cold and stale, carrying the faint scent of oil and concrete. Their footsteps echoed softly as they moved through the empty corridors. Victor guided them to an elevator locked behind a steel gate. "Still works," he said, pressing the old control panel. The elevator shuddered to life, descending slowly into darkness. When the doors opened, the space below was filled with rows of storage units and old servers, the hum of ancient machinery still faintly alive. "This is it," Victor said. Naomi looked around. "You built this?" Marcus nodded. "We called it the brain. It was supposed to store innovation. Instead, it stored secrets." They moved carefully between the rows until Victor stopped in front of a sealed door, marked Archive Access. "This is the vault," he said. The key code is still the same. He entered the sequence, and the door unlocked with a mechanical hiss. Inside was a small chamber lined with safes and terminals. Naomi turned on her flashlight and froze. A figure stood near the far wall, dressed in black, The beam of light caught her face. "Eleanor Graves, I knew you would come," she said calmly. Marcus stepped forward, anger controlled but fierce. "It ends tonight, Eleanor. You still think this is about you," she said, almost pitying. "I did not build Paragon to destroy you. I built it to save us. You think justice is clean, but it never is. Someone has to hold the power before it destroys everyone else. You buried me alive to save me?" Marcus said. "No," Eleanor said. "I buried the weakness that threatened everything we built." Naomi's voice cut through the silence. "You built nothing but fear." Eleanor turned her gaze to her. "And yet you are standing in my shadow, holding my truth." Naomi raised the hard drive. "This truth belongs to the world now." Eleanor took a slow step forward. "You think the world cares about truth? It only cares about who tells the best lie." Marcus clenched his fists. Then at his time the lie ended. Without warning, Eleanor reached for the control panel on the wall. Alarms blared as heavy doors began to close automatically. Victor shouted, "She is locking us in." Naomi rushed to the nearest console, typing rapidly to override the sequence. "I can stop it." Marcus lunged forward, grabbing Eleanor's wrist before she could hit another switch. "You cannot stop me," she hissed. "You do not even understand what you have unleashed." "Then teach me," Marcus said through gritted teeth. "Show me what truth looks like when you are not in control." Eleanor struggled, but he held her until Naomi shouted, "Got it." The alarm ceased, the doors halting mid-seal. The room fell quiet except for their ragged breathing. Eleanor looked at Marcus, something almost human flickering in her eyes. "You think you won, but the moment you expose the consortium, they will come for you, and they will not bury you. They will erase you." Marcus released her. "Then let them try." Naomi stepped closer, her flashlight steady. "It is over, Eleanor." The older woman straightened her coat, her voice cold once more. "For now." She turned toward the door, but Marcus blocked her path. "You are not leaving. You cannot stop what is already in motion," she said. "Paragon was just the beginning." Naomi exchanged a glance with Marcus. "Then we will be there for the end." As they led her out of the vault, the servers around them flickered to life, screens glowing with streams of code. Somewhere deep in the system, a new file began to upload its name, simple and chilling, Consortium Protocol. None of them noticed as the countdown silently began. The sound of the vault door closing behind them echoed through the corridor like the last heartbeat of the past. Naomi led the way, flashlight cutting through the stale air as she glanced back at Eleanor, whose hands were now restrained with a strip of wire Victor had found among the old equipment. Marcus followed close behind, his expression unreadable, his mind already calculating what Eleanor's final words might mean. The servers above them had come alive, humming like restless ghosts in the dark. "We have to shut down the system," Victor said urgently. "That countdown wasn't just a bluff. It's real. Something's uploading." Naomi stopped, turning to him. "Can you stop it?" "Maybe," Victor replied, opening his laptop. "But I'll need time. And if I'm right, this isn't just a local upload. It's global. The Consortium Protocol might already be spreading through linked networks." Marcus frowned. "Then every system Eleanor ever touched could be compromised." Eleanor gave a faint, cold smile. "You think too small, Marcus. It's already beyond me, beyond you. Once it activates, the world's financial grids, surveillance databases, and intelligence feeds will realign under a new directive. It doesn't need me anymore." Naomi tightened her grip on the flashlight. "Then it won't need to exist at all." Victor sat down on the floor, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "If I can trace the source, I can intercept the main node. But I'll need to connect directly to the system. That means we go back to the control core." "That's 3 levels down," Marcus said. "And it's locked." "Not for long," Naomi said, already moving. The elevator had stopped working, so they took the emergency stairs, each footstep echoing in the empty shaft. When they reached the sub-level marked control core, the temperature had dropped noticeably. The air smelled metallic, tinged with ozone. The room beyond the reinforced doors glowed with cold blue light, hundreds of cables snaking from the ceiling into rows of servers. In the center stood a single console, its screen pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. "That's it," Victor said, kneeling beside it. Naomi kept her flashlight steady as he connected his laptop, the countdown still running 2 minutes left. Marcus moved to Eleanor, his voice controlled but sharp. How do we stop it? You can't, she said. Even if you sever the network, it's designed to replicate. Kill one connection and two more will appear. It's not code, it's an organism. Naomi glared at her. Then we starve it. She turned to Victor. If we cut the main power line, can we stop it before the replication finishes? Victor hesitated. Maybe. But if I pull that much power manually, the surge could trigger a fire. This whole place could collapse. Marcus looked at Naomi, the question already in his eyes. It's worth the risk, she said. We didn't come this far to let our ghosts win. Eleanor laughed softly. You think you're saving the world. You're just erasing it. Marcus ignored her. Victor, you have 1 minute. Naomi, get to the circuit panel. When he says now, you cut everything. Naomi nodded and ran to the far side of the room, where a massive breaker box stood humming against the wall. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the lever. Ready? She shouted. Victor's fingers blurred over the keyboard, decrypting line after line of cascading code. 30 seconds, he yelled. The servers around them began to flicker, warning lights flashing red. Eleanor watched silently, her face illuminated by the growing storm of data. Marcus stood between her and the exit, his heartbeat steady even as the hum grew into a roar. 10 seconds, Victor shouted. Naomi looked at him. Now? Wait, he yelled. Almost there. 3, 2, now, Victor screamed. Naomi pulled the lever with all her strength. The room exploded into darkness. The servers died instantly, their lights vanishing one by one until only the dim glow of emergency exit signs remained. The silence that followed was almost deafening. Then came a low creak, the building settling from the sudden loss of power. Marcus's voice cut through the dark. Victor? Still here, Victor said, breathing hard. I think it worked. The upload froze at 98%. The consortium protocol never finished initializing. Are you sure? Naomi asked. As sure as I can be without a miracle, he said. Eleanor's voice came out of the darkness, smooth and unsettling. You don't understand what you've done. 98% is enough. It will awaken eventually. You've only delayed it. Naomi turned the flashlight on her, its beam steady. Then we'll be ready. Marcus stepped forward, pulling out his phone and activating the flashlight. We're leaving, he said. Victor, get what you can from the terminal. Whatever data remains could be our only chance to trace where the protocol spread. On it, Victor said, reconnecting his laptop to extract the residual code. Naomi kept the light on Eleanor, who stood motionless but calm, like someone who had seen the future and no longer feared it. When Victor finished, they started back up the stairs. By the time they reached the surface, dawn was breaking through the cracks in the boarded-up windows. The city outside was waking, unaware of how close it had come to losing itself. Naomi leaned against the wall, breathing in the first clean air she'd felt in hours. So, is it over? She asked. Victor looked at the drive in his hand. For now. But if she's right, that 98% could wake up any time. Marcus looked toward the horizon, his expression hardening. Then we stay ahead of it. If Paragon or the consortium resurfaces, we'll stop them again. Eleanor tilted her head, smiling faintly. You can't stop what the world wants, Marcus. It always hungers for control. He met her gaze. Then it's time someone taught it to hunger for justice instead. As they walked out into the sunlight, the city glowed gold over the river. And for a fleeting moment, Naomi allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, the truth they had fought for had bought the world one more chance to choose what kind of future it wanted to build. Weeks passed, and the city began to breathe again. News outlets continued to report the fallout from Eleanor Graves's empire collapsing, while global agencies launched investigations into the companies tied to the Paragon Initiative. The headlines were relentless, but for the first time in a long while, they spoke of justice rather than tragedy. Marcus Hart's name appeared everywhere. Some called him a hero, others, a traitor to his own world. He ignored all of it. Fame had never meant less to him. What mattered was that people were finally seeing the truth that had been buried for years. He sat in a small cafe by the river, the same river that had reflected so many of his sleepless nights. Naomi walked in quietly, her familiar presence grounding the chaos around him. She wore her worn leather jacket and carried a folded newspaper under her arm. "You look like a man trying to find peace," she said with a gentle smile. "Trying," Marcus said, "not succeeding yet." She slid into the seat across from him and handed him the newspaper. The front page showed Eleanor Graves being escorted through a courthouse, her expression unreadable but proud. "She's testifying," Naomi said. "They finally got her to talk. She's naming people politicians, bankers, investors. It's unraveling faster than anyone expected." Marcus studied the photo. "She always said control was everything. Maybe this is her way of keeping it one last time." Naomi sipped her coffee. "Do you think she regrets it?" He shook his head. "People like her don't regret, they justify." Naomi looked out the window at the morning light touching the water. "What about you? Do you regret saving her?" Marcus thought for a long moment. "No, mercy doesn't belong to the guilty. It belongs to the ones who choose it even when it's hard." She smiled faintly. "That sounds like something you'd say before doing something reckless." He laughed softly. "Maybe it is." The doorbell chimed again, and Victor entered, carrying a small box. "Sorry I'm late," he said, dropping into the seat beside them. "You're just in time," Naomi said. "What's that?" Victor opened the box and revealed a small black drive with a silver insignia engraved on it, the symbol of the Paragon Initiative. "I found this hidden in one of Eleanor's private servers that the agents missed. It's not active, but it contains fragments of the unfinished protocol, the 98%. Naomi's smile faded. "You said it was frozen." "It is," Victor said, "but frozen things can thaw." Marcus looked at the drive, then at his friends. "If we destroy it, we destroy the last piece of what she built. If we keep it, we risk it falling into the wrong hands." "So what do we do?" Naomi asked. Marcus took the drive, holding it in the light. "We keep it safe, not locked away, not buried, but guarded. Knowledge isn't the enemy. It's the greed that uses it." Victor nodded. "I can encrypt it again, off-grid, no connection to any system." "Do it," Marcus said. "Let the future decide what to do with it, but not today." They watched as Victor carefully repackaged the drive and tucked it into his jacket. The moment felt heavy, but necessary. Outside, the sky began to clear, sunlight breaking through the clouds like forgiveness after a long night. "Do you ever wonder why people like us get dragged into things like this?" Naomi asked. Marcus looked at her. "Because someone has to stand where others are afraid to. Someone has to listen when the world stops hearing. And someone has to keep them alive while they do it," she added, smiling. He chuckled. "That too." Victor stood. "There's a press conference at noon. They're asking if you'll make a statement." Marcus shook his head. "No more speeches. The truth speaks for itself now." They left the cafe together, the morning air fresh with the scent of rain and new beginnings. Across the street, television screens displayed breaking news. Global leaders call for ethical reform in tech and finance. The Heart case sparks international change. Naomi stopped to watch for a moment. "You started something bigger than all of us," she said quietly. "No," Marcus said. "You did. You pulled me out of the ground when I was already buried. Everything that came after belongs to you too." She turned to him, eyes glistening. "We both know it doesn't belong to anyone. It belongs to what's right." For a moment, they stood in silence, the world around them moving like a river flowing toward something uncertain yet hopeful. Then Victor joined them, holding up his phone. "The data from Paragon is fully secured. It's finally done." Naomi looked at Marcus. "So what now?" He exhaled slowly, watching the sunlight spread across the wet pavement. "Now, we live." She smiled, understanding that behind those simple words lay all the battles they had fought, all the losses, and all the redemption they had earned. As they walked toward the bridge, the city stretched out before them, a skyline rebuilt on truth, fragile but free. Behind them, the cafe door swung shut, and the newspaper on the table fluttered open to a small headline near the bottom. "Unknown nurse credited with saving billionaire during corporate conspiracy." Naomi would never read it, and she didn't need to. The world already knew her name, even if it didn't say it out loud. Somewhere far away, a server light blinked for the last time, and the remnants of the consortium protocol vanished into silence. The story that began with a single act of courage had come full circle, not with vengeance, but with grace. And as the morning sun climbed higher, washing the city in light, Naomi, Marcus, and Victor walked forward 3 lives bound by truth, walking out of the shadows and into the world they had fought to save.